Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. Right, so a lot of you have been asking me in private, in line and everywhere else, what do I think about Shang-Chi? And today is going to be my kind of like initial breakdown review, and we're going to do some testing. So first off, I'm not going to do the entire Winter Soldier fight. I'm just going to showcase the rotation that I like to do. So I like to do medium, light, 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 medium to stun the opponent. Then you either do double medium and heavy attack, medium, light, medium, or a heavy attack, or you can even squeeze in medium, light, 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 medium to go unblockable, should you choose to do so, and heavy attack. The key there is to sneak in that heavy attack in order to reset all of your pinpoint strikes and then have access to every single one of them. But you do not need to throw your heavy attack if you are activating level 2. Level 2 resent the pinpoint strikes as well. For most purposes, level 2 is the only special that really matters. Level 1 I haven't found to be too practical, but I'm sure that there will be some situations. And level 3 is extremely underwhelming in vast majority of the scenarios. But level 2 though, guaranteed crits, ton of damage, and the only way to cash out your chi energy or whatever is that you are building. There is a learning curve to properly realize how to gain these chi strikes whenever you are dexing or parrying, because it's not as straightforward as just parrying. You need to kind of like, there is a smaller window when you need to do it at the very last second, dex and parry both. So it's basically half the window, I think, of what a regular parry is. It's basically half the window of what dex is in order to trigger it. But other than that, basically that is what you need to know for the most part how to play Shang-Chi, depending on which piece of utility you want to access. Typically, it will start with the stun, because that kind of like lets you trigger whichever pinpoint strike you want, and it also gives you time to drop a heavy attack to reset. So most cases, you're not going to be using all 4 of the pinpoint strikes in any particular rotation. Not to mention, if you are trying to use all of the strikes, then they get less and less effective. So now that we got the playstyle out of the way, let's compare how he does damage-wise. And we're going to be using this uncollected, I think, quest 1 as a random fight. So we're going up against the 6.6k Cosmic Champion, and I'm going to be comparing him with the 2 of the harder hitters of the skill class. Now, I'm not playing perfect here, because had I actually triggered even a single of that chi energy thing, I would have probably finished off the fight a bit quicker, as we can see. But nonetheless, obviously, Shang-Chi here is holding his own. I'm about to go for a level 2, and at level 2, again, all hits are guaranteed crits, and you do quite a lot of damage. And again, you have several pieces of utility available to you along the way without any inconvenience or compromise in damage output. So at this point, we are, 47 hits in. I only had 2 chi strikes, and he barely survives, so I'm gonna have to drop like another hit. So 53 hits. And the video is like 1 minute long, 107. The fight starts at 13 seconds. So that took like what? 44 seconds? I believe so. But let's go to the next one. And next one is going to be Falcon. So let's quickly just go over the fight. The fight itself, as we can see, is longer due to having to wait out the downtimes of the lock-on effect, because I did want to kind of Falcon to be hitting as hard as possible. We finished at 53 strikes before, finish at 51. So basically the damage is very similar per hit with Falcon, who pretty much only strikes the opponent when it's locked on. But obviously the fight time was quite significantly quicker than Falcon. So overall, I'd say that he has better damage output than Falcon in an average fight. Obviously, if opponents have chance to evade, then Falcon can pack a punch. I'm going to go in with the Stealth Suit Spidey, who should be known as kind of like one of the bigger damage dealers of skill class 2, short / medium length fights. And yeah, let's see how this fight goes. I do make a mistake at some point here, I think, but it's all good. Not a big deal, because it will not compromise the damage output at all in any capacity. If it drops me below 50, here is the mistake. Well, he basically went unstoppable not really a mistake, but you can be unlucky. Forgot to mention that in previous fight, I believe Venom Pool did trigger regen a bit as well, but it still wouldn't have finished as quickly as Shang-Chi did. Now, comparing against Stealth Suit Spidey, hit count's 49, but obviously remember Stealth Suit Spidey has those 7 hit combos. So in short to medium fights, his damage output isn't quite as great as the top champions in the class, but it is definitely respectable and viable. And as I said, had I played it better with Shang-Chi and gotten more pinpoint strikes on him, he would very easily kind of compete with the rest of them. Now we're testing out how sturdy the guy is. And we can see on parries, a 3-star against Winter Soldier only took 16 damage on parry, 139 and 90 for mediums and lights on a block respectively. So now, with that information armed, let's compare him with a average block proficiency champion in skill class like Falcon. And let's take a look how much Falcon takes on block. 41. So he takes more than double. And Falcon is one of the upper class, I'd like to say. I believe he has 12th highest block proficiency in skill class, so he's slightly above average. And obviously here he still takes quite a lot more on regular blocked hits. And we're not really going to bring up Stealth Suit Spidey. Stealth Suit Spidey does completely awful. The reason for that is because Shang-Chi has 2nd highest block proficiency in skill class with 4,900 as maxed out 5-star. The highest block proficiency is for Massacre. So Massacre is actually quite tanky and many people don't really realize it. 3rd place is Night Thrasher, 2nd is Shang-Chi. So Shang-Chi can take a blocked hit very, very well. And that is super important because that often is Achilles' heel for a lot of champions. That's one of the bigger criticism I have with Jabari Panther. Even though Shang-Chi has a playstyle which basically lets him not being reliant on block or parry much, if at all, unlike Jabari Panther, but it's very good and reassuring to know that he can take a hit in the block. The rest of his stats are relatively average, but that is quite okay because he increases his critical damage just by playing the fight. The longer the fight goes, the harder he hits. He can more than double his starting damage output, which is amazing. And also, once you spam heavy attacks, which you will end up doing, you increase your crit rate quite significantly. Therefore, he is, again, doing relatively well. And now let's go to my last clips to showcase some, again, relatively medium level fights with some piece of his utility. We're just gonna go to Act 4, 5, I think. Either way, so here we have some more fights with Shang-Chi, where I'm gonna also be able to showcase how he can keep slow up 100% of the time pretty much during the fight. And that is definitely awesome ability to have. Many slow champions have been added recently to this game, but very few of them have a practical rotation that involves 100% slow uptime. And Shang-Chi is one of them, which is why I like him a lot. On top of that, you can very easily access debuff shrug off on cleanse mechanics, which in theory, and I could not find a properly suitable place where to test him against Biohazard and Freezer Burn, but I think he should be able to do that. Because if you do your light medium strike, then you cleanse off any debuffs on you and also prevent next 4 debuffs that are going to be placed on you. And with that, you should be able to use him as a pseudo-immune champion in most of the scenarios by slightly altering his rotation. So all in all, I definitely must say that Shang-Chi is probably the first champion this year that I genuinely can very easily see becoming a part of the game's meta. And he could be one of the go-to options for several different tasks in this game. Now, I'm not entirely sure, obviously, whether he will fit in as well as I hope he will, because sometimes these things work out, sometimes they don't. A good example here is Red Guardian. I personally expected Red Guardian to have bigger impact on the game than he has had, but such is often the nature based on what piece of content are coming out, what piece of content, what nodes are in there and stuff like that. And Red Guardian definitely is not useless champion by any means. He's definitely quite popular and relatively well received, but I did expect him to have somewhat slighter of an impact, on slightly higher impact on the game. But with Shang-Chi, once again, I am relatively confident that it is worth trying to acquire this champion, that it is worth trying to learn the rotations for this champion, and it really isn't as much work as many people initially would think, because yeah, it's similar to OG Ghost Rider, just the reverse order, where in OG Ghost Rider you learned what which action does and then aligned all of your effects in basically reverse order by leaving the effect that you want to last the longest and be the most potent later. And this is kind of like reverse order. You want to quickly access the effect that you want the most first, and then you can go and do whatever else you want. But in general, I do get quite good vibes. It's guaranteed crits, decently good damage output, solid, easy, accessible utility, very solid rotation, and one of the most important things in the champion also to make him succeed is how short is his damage rotation and how good is his base damage. For instance, I personally believe one of the reasons why Guardian is not as frequently used and played champion is because he simply has too long of a damage loop. Because the damage loop basically typically involves building up to level 1 or level 3 and then dropping a level 2 to kind of like do a huge burst damage. This champion has no need for level 1 or level 3. You can build up straight to level 2 to deliver a ton of damage. And in absence of special attack damage, his base damage is still also quite high enough, and he showcases quite good control over the fight with those stuns on the first combo that he drops, and that kind of like lets you do whatever you want in any fight that he does well enough. So yes, I did not originally expect to like Shang-Chi as much as I do based on his ability description. But again, once you see it in action, once you get a chance to play with him, once you realize that he's a tanky lad as well, I like him. I genuinely do like him. I think he will land somewhere towards the top of skill class. Not necessarily maybe in top 5, maybe he will be, but definitely very easily from the very start I would put him somewhere in top 10 skill champions, and then obviously we need to wait a bit, evaluate, see how he performs in AQAW, anywhere else, and then we can adjust his position accordingly. But top 10 for a starting, it's not bad at all, I think. So yeah, I definitely will be grinding for the guy, probably opening early access bundle as well, hopefully saving myself that grind. And even though I do want Mr. Negative, because he's so freaking cool, I also want this guy. So this probably will be the first month where I'm actually quite excited for both of the champions. Yeah, we can see that very easy control, 3 slow debuffs at the same time. Super easy, barely an inconvenience. Anyways, that is about it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this review / guide on Shang-Chi. Well, at the very least, the initial one, because obviously once I get more accustomed with him, there will be some new things that I discover and some things that I change my mind on. But in general, that is where I currently stand on this champion. And that is about as good of a review I have given any champion in 2021. So that's about it. And I'm going to catch you guys soon. See ya. Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about